The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining. Sorry for running a few minutes late. We had a few technical difficulties, and we hope everyone is staying safe out there. So my name is Chris Edwards. I am a sales engineer in the Citrix CSP program. I have about 16 years of experience in the EUC space and a history in the DAS space, going back many years, working for multiple service providers and MSPs. And I've been at Citrix in various roles for the past 8 years. And today we have a very special guest, David O'Keefe from Microsoft. So David, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Chris. So my name is David O'Keefe, and I am a partner technology strategist here at Microsoft. In my role, I focus on driving technical enablement and helping partners build solutions based on Microsoft Cloud services. I've been at Microsoft for a little over a year and a half, but I worked at a Citrix CSP partner focused on remote delivery of healthcare applications for almost 16 years before joining Microsoft.
That's awesome. So we really appreciate David having you here today to talk to our Citrix CSPs. And today we're going to be talking about how Citrix and Microsoft help you as a service provider take a premium offering to market. We'll cover the benefits of Windows virtual desktops and Azure to CSPs, and then the value add of Citrix to Windows virtual desktops. And then we'll cover some of the programmatic things about the Microsoft CSP program. And just please ask your questions in the chat as we go, and then we will try to cover most of those at the end. So kicking things off, as you may know, Citrix and Microsoft have a long-standing history going back 30 plus years, and we've really always been about extending and adding value to Microsoft solutions. We have over 400,000 joint customers representing over 100 million users. So chances are that if you're here on this webinar, you are a partner of both Citrix and Microsoft. And as part of a new multi-year agreement, both companies will support Citrix Workspace as a preferred digital workspace platform for Microsoft customers and Microsoft Azure as a preferred public cloud. And with this partnership, we'll continue to provide integrations and functionality that optimizes and extends the value of Windows virtual desktops and Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Teams with things like joint tools and joint deployment guides and a deep engineering relationship with joint product roadmaps. So with our full Citrix Workspace stack plus networking and analytics, we have many integrations across Microsoft 365 and Azure and WVD. But for this webinar, we're mostly going to focus on how we're extending the value of WVD with our virtual app and desktop service from Citrix Cloud. So we will cover how using Citrix solutions, we're making WVD more powerful, easier to manage, and easier for you to scale your business while providing that best possible employee experience to your customers. But before we get into that, David is going to give an overview of WVD and the benefits of Azure to your CSP business.
Great. So what are those benefits of Azure for Citrix CSPs? I would say first, let's start with some of the high-level benefits of Azure. Service providers who own their own data centers or colo facilities typically have only 1 or 2 locations because of the added expense and complexity of maintaining multiple facilities. However, it's common to have customers all throughout the United States, especially in the context of desktop solutions. Proximity to that end customer plays an important role in that overall user experience. One of the first benefits of Azure is availability. Azure is available in more than 60 regions throughout the world, with 8 regions across commercial workloads in the US alone. This means service providers can place workloads proximate to their customers without the need for additional facilities. Another common challenge for service providers is managing available capacity. It's common for service providers to need to purchase additional capacity for compute or storage in large increments well in advance of customer need to ensure it is available when customers ask. While this approach can be efficient, it does leave service providers with large investments that can take a significant amount of time to grow into to realize that value. In Azure, Microsoft removes the burden of capacity management and makes resources available when you need them, where you need them, helping you save time and money. A final challenge that all partners face is the constant threat of bad actors. It is easy to find solutions to address vulnerabilities or risks, but not always at an attainable price that a service provider can afford. Service providers need to secure a large footprint ranging from the infrastructure to the virtual machine operating systems, expanding to the identities of the end users, their files, and their devices. In Azure, Microsoft lessens the burden on service providers by securing the infrastructure or platform services leveraged in a solution. Microsoft invests at a scale that partners can't match with a spend of over $1 billion each year on security. This allows service providers to better focus on their protection efforts to provide customers with a more secure environment overall. So how can partners leverage the availability, scalability, and security of Azure? Partners can extend their data center with hybrid offers, or they can leverage Azure to build net new solutions. Partners often ask where they can add value to make money when leveraging the Azure platform, and thankfully the answer to that is pretty simple. Microsoft doesn't provide managed services. We don't provide managed hosting or co-location for hybrid needs. Customers are looking for a single invoice for cloud computing and services costs. You as a partner can provide additional support resources. You can provide your own intellectual property, custom billing. You can take your knowledge as a partner and help accelerate the time to market with your cloud expertise. So each one of these areas provides a place for you to offer incremental value on top of Azure and drive your own unique differentiation.
Yeah, and David, if I can add to that, many of the partners that I work with, they've either moved completely to Azure, or they're thinking about moving to Azure, or they're currently in a hybrid scenario. And one of the partners I talk with that has moved completely to Azure, they made the point that Azure really helps them scale their business. So in the past, if they were to bring on a new large customer, they would have to go out and buy new hardware, potentially lease more data center space. So this slowed down their ability to onboard customers quickly, right? And then they also made the point that Microsoft is a name that customers trust. And I also talked to another partner that actually found it difficult to procure new hardware during the pandemic that we're all going through, right? And was able to very quickly extend their platform to Azure. So that scalability that you get from Azure has huge business benefits in terms of being able to go to market quicker.
Great, those are some really great partner stories. Thanks, Chris. So let's now dig into the benefits of Windows Virtual Desktop. For end users, Windows Virtual Desktop offers a full Windows 10 enterprise experience, including Microsoft Edge, Cortana, and the Microsoft Store. It gives a familiar Office 365 or M365 Pro Plus experience for multi-session. For users who have advanced GPU needs, you can have optional GPU acceleration for encoding and decoding video and generally improving the overall responsiveness. Users can access built-in or attached cameras in remote applications or remote desktops with both new and legacy Windows applications. Microsoft made an acquisition of a company called FSLogix. FSLogix is a profile container which enables full access to OneDrive, the ability to run Outlook in cache mode, and generally dramatically speed up logon and application launch times. Office 365 was specifically optimized for this multi-session environment, again, driving for a better end user experience. And we also provide full fidelity Teams audio and video meetings when connecting from a Windows endpoint to a remote desktop. For IT administrators and teams, the multi-session Windows 10 available in Windows Virtual Desktop adds efficiency and ease of management for devices and everyday apps. It does this by reducing IT costs by supporting up to 4x as many users compared to Windows 10 Enterprise single session. And it simplifies the management on Azure with a single image for both single session and multi-user.
Awesome, great. So to add a comment here, I think FS Logics is a huge benefit to our partners and customers. So a lot of times, when we're talking about Citrix and Microsoft, we're always talking about the value add of Citrix, and FS Logics was a great Citrix ready partner that extends the value of Citrix on the profile front, and that was just a great acquisition by Microsoft. So jumping into the Citrix value add, so Microsoft Azure is the Citrix cloud of choice. We are one of the largest Azure customers in the world, but we're all about providing choice and flexibility. And for many of you, migrating to the cloud is a journey. So a big benefit of Citrix Cloud is the ability to spin up and manage resources in Azure, as well as your current data center or your customer's data center space. And with Azure, we even make it easy to spin up resources in multiple Azure regions, right? So if your data center is on the East Coast, but now you have customers in the West Coast and need to spin up resources quickly that are geographically, close to your users, right? Or even in other countries, Citrix and Azure will really help you, scale to accommodate these use cases, right? So we help you with hybrid cloud management as you shift to the cloud or take on new customers around the world. And on the topic of scaling globally, we have 19 POPs, points of presence, all around the world with our Citrix Gateway service. So I've seen, ISVs that need to scale their application globally, and from their one Citrix Cloud account, spin up VDAs in an Azure region in Australia, and the end users still have a good experience because they're making a connection to a POP in their region, then connecting to a VDA in their region, right? So that user connection is kind of contained within the region, even though the control plane is in the US. So if you think about the fact that we have a globally dispersed access layer, this really helps you, scale your business globally with the ability to spin up VDAs anywhere while still providing a good experience to your globally dispersed users. And on the topic of spinning up VDAs, Citrix has really always been known for our provisioning technology, with that ability to take your one master image and spin up tens or hundreds of virtual machines from that one master image. And that same machine creation services works in Azure and is actually optimized for Azure. So if you think about your offering and how you stay engaged with your customers, that monthly image update process is really how you get in deep with your customers, because their needs are always changing, their business needs are always changing. They need new applications installed or a user experience thing tweaked, or existing applications updated to the latest version. So continuing to update and improve their virtual desktop experience is a big part of your offering, right? Where you are charging the customer that per user per month for managed services. So this is the way to stay ingrained and continue to add value and maintain that recurring revenue on high margin managed services. So Citrix provisioning technologies help you with that, and helps you deliver and manage that at scale. And then as we're seeing more service providers and customers turn to Azure, one feature I want to touch on is autoscale. This is a feature of the virtual app and desktop service that is built for reducing public cloud costs. And how it works is that, first of all, it changes the way that we do session load balancing. So in the past, we would spread the users out across all the VDAs in a catalog. Now with public cloud and with autoscale, we stack the users vertically. So it'll stack users on the first server and then turn on the next server as the first one nears capacity, depending on your buffer and settings. And then it'll stack users on the second server and then turn on the third server, et cetera, et cetera. And then as user sessions start to drain, it will disable logins on the server with the least amount of connections. And as all the sessions drain, it will power off that VM, right? So It's an automated process, and the point is to power on the VMs when you need them and power them off when you don't need them. And our tech marketing has a tech brief on Autoscale where they did a lot of testing with various scenarios and used Login BSI to simulate the user logins. And they found that we can save over 70% on Azure compute costs compared to having those VMs run 24/7, right? So this is really about making sure that those evenings, late nights, early mornings, as well as weekends and holidays, that for all of these scenarios, you're using the least amount of public cloud resources to greatly reduce your customers' cloud compute bills. And then another great cost savings feature is the resource optimization component of Workspace environment management. So the WEM resource optimization component optimizes RAM, CPU, and I/O, and just make sure that those runaway processes do not take over the VM, so you can use less resources while providing a better user experience to your customers. And this is even more significant in multi-session, server-based or the new Windows 10. And I did a blog post with a service provider, Prototype IT, that is using WEM in Azure, and they saw up to a 75% reduction in one customer's Azure bill. So this customer had an application that would just chew up endless amounts of CPU. It was kind of poorly written, homegrown application, and they were able to use WEM to address that and reduce their customer's Azure bill. So this was an extreme case, but Prototype IT did note that they see about 30 to 60% in Azure cost savings per customer on average. So if you combine WEM and Autoscale, you're using less expensive VMs with WEM, and then those machines are only running when you need them with Autoscale, right? So that's huge cost savings for your customers. And then one other thing to note about WEM is that we also have a policy engine that replaces some GPOs and processes those user settings more intelligently to accelerate the logins, right? So the point is to provide a responsive desktop as quickly as possible. And I've heard from customers that have had logins of over 2 minutes and got those down to 15 seconds with WEM.
I really want to highlight this technology specifically. In the cloud, it's all about driving that performance. It's all about keeping that cost down. And this is just an incredible technology that helps drive that density while really help focusing on that end user experience. So great technology from Citrix here as a value add on top of Windows Virtual Desktop.
Thanks, David. I appreciate that. And so for those of you that are new to Citrix Cloud and to the Virtual App and Desktop service, what I want to bring up is that this is based on the same platform as the on-prem version. So you still get HDX, our secret sauce, and all of those things that you can only get with Citrix. So the leading multi-monitor support, the broadest peripheral support and printing support, and leading GPU capabilities, the leading voice, video, and multimedia redirection capabilities, Teams and Skype optimization, and all of these new innovations like enlightened data transport and adaptive throughput, and how we're continually, improving and fine-tuning our protocol ICA, right? So these are all of these things that deliver that best possible user experience and ensures that your offering can handle all of your customers' use cases. So another often overlooked aspect of our HDX technologies is cost savings. So while these innovations improve user experience, they also reduce server-side resource consumption, right? So all of these things that you can only get from Citrix, that truly delivers that everyday workspace, you can also get with the Virtual App and Desktop service from Citrix Cloud. And as David mentioned, Microsoft has a native Teams optimization solution for Windows 10 WVD workloads, but we extend this value by also optimizing Teams for server-based workloads. So any server-based OS like 2019 or 2016, as well as optimizing Teams for any workloads that you are running outside of WVD. So these could be, virtual desktops that you have on-prem. And then we also plan to deliver Teams optimization to all of the major endpoint platforms. So currently we have Windows devices covered. We recently released optimization for Linux devices. And then we also just very recently released the tech preview for Mac devices. So, on the Linux front, that's huge for bringing Teams optimization to thin clients. that are Linux based, such as iGel. And I actually worked with a partner that is shifting their WVD workloads to Citrix Cloud, because when COVID struck, they sent all of their employees home with, an iGel thin client, and, kind of the team's performance became a challenge in a virtual environment. So Citrix solved this for them, where they get that best user experience and optimized team on, low cost, low maintenance devices.
Again, just a really great example of where Citrix continues to build on top of the solution provided by Microsoft. As Chris mentioned, as I mentioned, on the Microsoft solution, we focus on delivery of teams or optimization of teams back to Windows endpoints today. We'll continue to grow that and expand, but Citrix is ahead of us, and our optimization focuses only on teams. So if you need Skype or you needed Citrix GoToMeeting, those are technologies with Citrix Suite that can have that better end user experience then as well.
Awesome. Thanks, David. And, on the topic of providing that best user experience, there's other vendors out there that claim to kind of air quote extend the value of WVD, but actually don't provide any new value in terms of employee experience. And a lot of them claim any device, but don't have clients for all of the major endpoint platforms out there, right? They claim this because they have an HTML5 receiver, which means access through a web browser, which of course we have too. But all of these things that we're doing, around pushing the boundaries and extending HDX to all these other platforms, things that we have like multi-monitor support on Chromebooks and, Skype optimization on Chromebooks and, the Teams optimization on Linux that we talked about, all of these HDX innovations are only possible because we have engineering teams dedicated to delivering clients for all of the major endpoint platforms, and where we're always pushing the limits of those endpoint platforms, like low cost devices, Raspberry Pis, etc. So when we say any device, we mean the best possible experience on any device, not just basic access through a web browser. And then when we talk about, anywhere, any device access, but what if you actually don't want that, or you have a customer with strict security needs? So we have conditional access at the network layer with our smart access and smart control features, where you can control under which conditions the users will even be able to see the applications, right? So for example, certain applications will only be able to launch when in the office, or maybe, even while on an approved device. And then we take this further with some, granular conditional controls around all of the security application features, such as blocking copy paste, accessing local drives, or blocking printing. So maybe while in the office, your users can access all applications, but then when they're remote or working from home, there's certain applications that you want to hide altogether. And then, maybe other applications they can still access, but maybe only while on an approved device. And then maybe you want to lock down printing or local drive access when those users are remote as well, right? So this gives you, the ability to set the right level of access combined with the right level of security. So depending on when, where, and how the users are connecting, you're controlling what they have access to. And, I work with CSPs where in some case the licensing is already in place for this on the networking side, and the CSP uses smart access and smart control as a way to create more professional services. So where they're getting in deep with their customers to, understand that mix of security needs and business operations, and then generating revenue on the time for building out these policies. So, and while we've focused so far on the traditional app and desktop delivery of Citrix Workspace, remember Citrix Workspace is about providing that single pane of glass for employee access to all of their apps, desktops, and data, no matter where that resides, right, on-prem or in the cloud. So one of the newer integrations makes content collaboration available within Citrix Workspace, so making it seamless for users to access their files. And then content collaboration also integrates in Office OneDrive, so layering on top a lot of the ease of sharing benefits and security features to OneDrive. And then we also have a newer cloud service called Access Control that enables you to publish SaaS apps with single sign-on, and we layer on security controls with the ability to launch the SaaS app in a secured browser hosted by Citrix, where you can layer on a watermark over the SaaS app and other security controls such as blocking copy paste, printing, accessing local drives, etc. Right? So the point is that Citrix Workspace is about giving the users all of their apps and data from that one user interface. And again, it doesn't matter where those apps or data reside, on-prem, in the cloud, or multiple clouds. And most of you should know about where we're going with the future of Citrix Workspace and the new intelligence that we're building into the Citrix Workspace platform with our new micro app capabilities. So a micro app is a presentation of a single use case or a single workflow or a single action from a business application. And it allows the end user to execute it with just a few clicks and without having to switch into the full application. And while we have a lot of out-of-the-box integrations with a lot of leading SaaS vendors like Salesforce and Workday and Microsoft, we know that CSPs cover virtually every vertical out there, and every vertical has hundreds, if not thousands, of applications. And all of these applications have processes and workflows and common tasks that can be simplified and optimized, right? So that's the opportunity for our CSPs, right? So building micro apps for these vertical specific applications that you specialize in will really enable you to bring a differentiated offering to market where you now have the opportunity to build IP into Citrix Workspace, right? So being able to go to market in a specific vertical and showcase that you really know your customer's business, you know the applications that they use, you know their processes and workflows, and then being able to showcase something that only you can provide is the opportunity that we see for our service providers around micro apps. And then just touching on networking very quickly, our SD-WAN and ADC solution work natively in Azure. Citrix was named a Microsoft preferred provider for Azure Virtual WAN, and Citrix was also named a Works with Office 365 SD-WAN partner. We utilize the Microsoft Azure APIs and even the Microsoft Office 365 connectivity principles to optimize the network. So as you extend or move to the cloud, our networking solutions help you to connect in your branch office or headquarters or data center to your cloud environment and provide all of those same benefits like optimizing Office 365 traffic and security with next-gen firewall capabilities and replacing expensive MPLS circuits and providing the best experience to your Citrix users with how we prioritize and optimize HDX traffic with SD-WAN. So here is the top 10 Citrix value adds to Windows Virtual Desktop from our marketing department. I covered most of these plus some others, but a few things I want to call out is how we add additional layers of security with things like security analytics and session recording and Citrix app protection, which adds new anti-keylogger and anti-print screen capabilities to Workspace app. So there's many different ways that we add value to WVD, but overall, Citrix Cloud is the best way to manage, scale, and optimize the WVD workload. And Citrix Workspace gives your customers the most powerful WVD experience. So we've talked about the technology, but let's take a step back for a minute and talk about the business value. So providing that anywhere, any device access, empowers your customers and their users to work from anywhere. But what are the business outcomes that unlocks, right? So first of all, you're driving employee experience and employee engagement for your customers, which is huge for productivity. And you're improving your customers' work-life balance, right? Which is huge for employee morale and hiring and retaining top talent, right? I think we all have stories in our own personal life of where that work-life balance has come into play. With a dog having kidney surgery or, kids behind me that you might hear screaming that are doing school from home. And then, think about what this means, that work from anywhere means when business continuity, when COVID hit, right? So for Citrix customers, business continuity was very seamless, right? They went home and kept working as normal as it could be. You're also enabling your customers to hire remote employees, which enables them to tap into a global talent pool, as well as the operational and cost savings of potentially reducing physical office space. And then when things get back to normal and people do start coming back into physical office locations, you're enabling your customers to seamlessly expand to new locations, regionally or globally. All they need is an internet connection and thin clients or cheap devices, and they have their workspace ready to go. So there was a customer story I worked on in product marketing where there was a change in the market that forced a regional supplier to expand rapidly into a global supplier. And they had to expand from the Netherlands to China and Mexico. And this was a matter of staying in business. And they did this very quickly with Citrix, right? So you're also enabling your customers to stay competitive and adapt to changing market expectations, right? So this is the Citrix advantage that you're delivering to your customers. And with that, I'll hand it over to David to talk more about the benefits of the Microsoft CSP program.
Great, thanks, Chris. Before I dive into the Microsoft Cloud Solution Provider Program, I do want to take a quick detour and first highlight an important Azure solution for service providers called Azure Lighthouse. In your data center, you likely have a central management portal where you can manage all of the infrastructure for your customers. Azure Lighthouse carries this on-premises functionality forward into Azure. With Microsoft Azure Lighthouse, service providers can manage and operate customer environments at scale with higher automation and visibility from within their own context or control plane. So said differently, partners or customers can log into the Azure portal with a single credential that allows them to see and manage all of their customer Azure resources natively with the permission level that's appropriate for that user. At the core of this technology is delegation, where customer resources and subscriptions are projected logically into the service provider's control plane. So you can see across thousands of customers and subscriptions in a single view and act within that view. At the same time, the customer has much more granular control over what resources they delegate for you to manage. The customer gets to see across service providers as well with alerts and logs. With this visibility comes transparency, and with the transparency comes greater governance and the ability to make the right decision about service providers. For you, it helps protect your intellectual property in your context, and it means that you don't have to house your policy management templates or other intellectual property within the customer context where other partners could see or access it. So overall, Azure Lighthouse drives greater efficiency and scale while allowing you to centrally manage your customers. Next, we're going to dive into the Microsoft CSP program. So we've talked about the benefits of WVD, the added value of Citrix, the management at scale, and now let's talk about the benefits here. By design, the Cloud Solution Provider Program enables Microsoft partners to resell Microsoft Cloud services while retaining or owning the customer relationship. Specifically, the CSP program enables partners to create solutions using Microsoft Cloud services and directly bill their customers, directly provision and manage customer subscriptions for Microsoft Cloud services, act as the first point of contact for customer support, and build ongoing customer relationships. So let's dive into this just a little further. You can see there are three types of partners in the Cloud Solution Provider Program: direct bill partners, indirect providers, and indirect resellers. Direct bill partners hold a direct relationship with Microsoft and their customers. Direct bill partners must bill and support their customers, hold an advanced support for partners or premier support for partners agreement, resell a defined minimum amount of cloud services through the Cloud Solution Provider Program each year, and ultimately provide incremental value on top of the Microsoft Cloud services. Indirect providers hold a direct relationship with Microsoft, but sell to customers through partners known as indirect resellers. Indirect providers take on the responsibility for providing support and meeting the minimum resell requirements. Indirect providers typically provide their indirect resellers with self-service portals or automation tools that really help to simplify the Cloud Solution Provider Program partner experience. I'll call out that for both the direct bill partner and the indirect provider, Microsoft offers the cloud services at a discount below list or retail price. So finally, I'll talk to the indirect reseller. Indirect resellers hold a direct relationship with the customer and with their indirect provider, but have an indirect relationship with Microsoft. Indirect resellers rely heavily on the services provided by their indirect providers to greatly simplify the resale experience. In exchange for these additional services, the indirect providers keep a percentage of the margin or discount Microsoft provides for the resale of these cloud services. Microsoft provides two broad categories of cloud services in the Cloud Solution Provider program. These are license-based services like Microsoft or Office 365, and consumption-based services like Azure. For license-based services, again like Microsoft or Office 365, licenses are purchased for a 12-month term with price protection for the duration of that term, and those licenses are billed monthly in advance of the usage. Today, partners can increase or decrease licenses at any time with no penalty. When reducing licenses, partners receive a prorated credit on the following month's invoice. License-based services are offered to direct or indirect providers at a fixed margin, regardless of the overall volume or scale of licenses resold. For consumption-based services like Azure, billing happens in arrears on a monthly basis based on the previous month's consumption. There's no upfront commitment required, but unlike license-based services, prices may fluctuate from month to month based on usage, exchange rates, cost tiering for individual services, or general decreases or increases in a price for a given service. From a billing standpoint, Microsoft bills the direct bill partner or indirect provider in advance of the usage. In the indirect provider model, indirect providers will in turn bill the indirect reseller. So how do you as a partner make money? In either model, partners can offer the services to their customer at any price. Partners can mark up the services, and really you're strongly encouraged to add incremental value on top of the Microsoft Cloud services. Although we've focused on the cloud services, a common question from partners with existing data centers or colo facilities is, how are SPLA licenses or service provider license agreement licenses different or the same as the licenses or services or solutions from the Cloud Solution Provider program? From a high-level standpoint, the SPLA program allows partners to rent on-premises software licenses on a monthly basis, where the Cloud Solution Provider program focuses on reselling cloud services on a monthly basis. In the SPLA program, the license rights are assigned to the partner for use in solutions they create for their customers. In this model, partners can create multi-tenant solutions that can be shared amongst many customers. In the CSP program, the license rights are assigned to the customer, not the partner. This means partners cannot create multi-tenant solutions through CSP because each customer needs their own Azure or M365 subscription. Although both programs have fundamentally different goals, the two programs can be used in combination in defined scenarios. Some user-based licenses or user-based products like remote desktop services are DCP eligible. This eligibility allows a partner to deploy SPLA licenses into a customer's Azure subscription. If you want to see a full list of those licenses that are DCP eligible, I would encourage you to review the SPUR or Service Provider Use Rights document.
Awesome. Thank you, David. So, just to kind of wrap up, by powering your offering with Citrix and Microsoft, you're providing that best possible employee experience to your customers, which unlocks those business outcomes that we talked about a few slides back and is going to help you retain customers and improve customer satisfaction. And then Azure and WVD and Citrix Cloud really enable you to go to market quicker, onboard customers faster, and really just be able to manage and deliver your offering at scale, right? And you're backing your brand and your offering with the power and trust of Microsoft and Citrix with the most premium workspace offering. So just to wrap up, here are some resources for getting started with Citrix on Azure. On YouTube, there is a video presentation of everything you need to know about Citrix on Azure. And this is from our Synergy conference last year. And then on Sales IQ, there is a follow-up video presentation from our Summit conference earlier this year. And we also have a tech brief of Autoscale in our tech zone, as well as the scalability and economics of delivering Citrix on Azure. I recommend checking both of those out. And then our Citrix Cloud Success Center has some really good step-by-step guides with print screens on building out Citrix Cloud services. And then we have a recent blog post from one of our product leaders, Harsh Gupta, where he talks about a recent migration guide that we collaborated on with Microsoft, as well as the new Citrix automated configuration tool, which helps speed up the process of moving from traditional virtual apps and desktops to the cloud service. So over to you, David.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chris and I have now done such an excellent job of convincing you of the value of Azure, the value of Citrix, and the Microsoft Cloud Solution Provider Program. And now you want to know the logical question of how do you get started? If you're not already enrolled in the Microsoft Cloud Solution Provider Program, the first step is to enroll. The link on this slide provides the considerations for signing up, as well as a directory to find an indirect partner like Ingram Micro when signing up as an indirect reseller. Once you're enrolled, the next step is to learn more about Azure. To start, I'd encourage you to review the Azure resources that Microsoft makes available specifically for service providers. Next, I would encourage you to leverage our learning platform, Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn includes hundreds of modules and thousands of hours, dozens or hundreds of learning paths ranging from an introduction to Azure to deep dive topics like deploying Windows Virtual Desktop. Microsoft Learn is completely free, and several learning paths like Azure Fundamentals include limited sandbox environments that allow you to experience Azure at no charge while learning how to do common resources or deploy common resources like virtual machines. Finally, for anyone enrolled as an indirect reseller, I would encourage you to check out the resources provided by your indirect provider. Many indirect providers offer webinars or training events focused on enabling their indirect providers or their indirect resellers to be successful reselling Microsoft Cloud services.
And for a trial of Citrix Workspace, just reach out to your Citrix CSP PAM or sales engineer or distributor. And if you are not currently a Citrix CSP, I encourage you to sign up, which you can do from our website, so you can get your hands on the technology and cloud services as soon as possible. So we will be sending out a follow-up email to everyone who registered with some of these resources that we discussed, and we'll include the PowerPoint as well, because I see that as one of the questions in the chat. So now I think we'll jump into the Q&A. If you haven't already submitted your question, please submit it into the chat. We only have a few questions so far, so I will start to cover some of these. We would like to know if Citrix is adding value regarding MSIX app attach so that CSPs will have a similar experience with deploying apps via app attach. I don't believe we have any integration with MSIX app attach. I've actually never heard of it before. David, can you comment on that solution?
Absolutely. So MSIX App Attach is a technology that focuses on taking and containerizing applications and separating them from the operating system. So really the notion here is you would leverage the similar technology to FS Logics to take your app, put it on a application disk that can then be attached to the end user and automatically registered with the user. And it's a way of, again, abstracting that application and really focusing on keeping the operating system clean and easy to manage, while at the same time simplifying the delivery of applications to end users, simplifying that update process, and assigning applications to users in a just-in-time fashion.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, and just to add to that, Chris, this is Arheli, by the way. So that it's more similar to AppV. So guys that can remember the days of where we integrated directly with AppV, that's continued to be made available now through this type of technology. And as I understand, that's already, you're able to leverage MSIX app today in the Citrix environment. We haven't extended the integration to the level of app what we had before in AppV, but that I'm sure that it's being worked on.
Awesome. Thanks, Arheli. So, and then we have, is Citrix a direct CSP of Microsoft so that Citrix partners can obtain licenses and consumption-based services for Azure by dealing directly with Citrix? So the answer to that is yes, for our Citrix Managed Desktop solution, which was just recently rebranded. So I might get this wrong, but I think it's now Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Standard for Azure. With the old CMD name solution, you do have the option of running your VDA workloads in Citrix's managed Azure, and then Citrix will bill you directly for that compute.
I would say, though, in the context of wanting to deploy Citrix virtual apps and desktops, where the infrastructure is managed by you, so managing those VDAs or managing the additional resources that a customer may want to bring to Azure. In that context, the resources that I provided on the Getting Started page will show you the list of indirect providers that you could work through as you signed up as an indirect reseller. In the context there, Citrix is not an indirect provider. They are, as Chris mentioned, they have a solution focused on being able to consume those desktops, being able to simplify the process, but that's a different offering focused on that.
Awesome. And then will a recording of this webinar be included? Yeah, I believe we're going to send that out. And congrats on the Emmy, by the way. Looking forward to season 5 when that hits Netflix.
One of the next questions is really around the difference between the value that WVD provides versus the value that Citrix provides. And there is confusing messaging around, is WVD enough? Do you need Citrix? How do they work together? And the reality is that Microsoft is a partner-led organization. In solutions like WVD, we create what we think is going to be a great product that addresses a wide range of the market needs. But it doesn't address all of those needs. And as we saw in the presentation here, Citrix includes so much more functionality on top. From that advanced monitoring to the layering to the security or conditional policies to the optimization of the session host or the team's experience. So it's really understanding the use case and the needs that you have, as well as evaluating the cost savings that you can receive from leveraging technologies like WEM or leveraging autoscale technologies as you're deploying these solutions for your customers. Chris, anything else you want to add to that question?
Nope. And then Alan, we see your comment on the MSIX app attach, so we'll take that to our product team. Appreciate that. All right, so last chance for any questions. I think we covered everything so far. Nope. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone's time. And as I mentioned, we will send a follow-up email with a lot of the resources we discussed, the PowerPoint, the recording, and just everyone stay safe out there.
Thank you.